Hey guys, it's Mars and Giles and we are back. It's a new year, it's a new Facebook Live, same old us, but today we've got a very special guest, one of Britain's best ever Olympians. It is the Miss Victoria Pendleton.
Oh, thank you guys.
So yeah, we're going to be cooking up a recipe today. Giles, what are we cooking up?
We are going to cook up a Pestorissa tofu and roasted veg quinoa, one for the veganuary fans out there.
Awesome, sounds delicious. Right guys, don't forget, make sure you comment below. We've already had loads of questions coming from the community asking Victoria lots of things. Don't forget to put your questions below, comment, and you could be in with the chance of winning a month worth of Mindful Chef boxes. So make sure you do that as well. Giles, why don't you get us started? What do we need to do first?
So Victoria, if you thinly slice the yellow pepper and the courgette, and we'll stick it in the baking tray in the oven for about 15 minutes.
Okay.
I will stick this quinoa on, in it goes. And I'll also get going on the tofu. So we're going to do a bit of a cooking up, giving you some tips on the food we're cooking, talking you through that, but also Milo, as he said, has got a load of questions from you guys to ask Victoria.
I've also got a load of questions, to be perfectly honest, that I want to ask. So, Victoria, I suppose for a lot of us, we just want to know, Giles and I, we're firm believers, you know, your upbringing plays a bit of a part in a role in later life.
Yeah.
What, for you, were you always cycling? Were you on a bike straight away?
So I grew up in a fairly, well, in the countryside really. It was a commuter town into London. Spent a lot of time outdoors, and I've got a twin brother. Normally people know that. And we just always were doing sport together, riding our bikes around the village, just having a bit of independence. And my dad was a keen cyclist.
Okay, nice.
So it was inevitable really. It was like part of our lifestyle. I never knew any different.
Great. Yeah, and what else do? You just outside a lot?
Yeah, just playing any sports really. Like for me, Alex and I would be like, do you want to go and play tennis? We'd just get a couple of tennis rackets out. We'd make a badminton net across the back garden. We kind of made do with what we had, a piece of string across the garden, a couple of garden canes. And yeah, just kind of did lots of different things. Like we always got sports equipment for gifts because we had male and female twins. You need gifts that satisfies everyone.
Yeah, you don't want anyone getting jealous.
Exactly. So we kind of got a lot of sports equipment generally to play with, which was cool.
So parents were like, just get outside, go and play, right? Yeah, I remember that. Those are some of my favourite memories. You know, I've got two brothers, one sister, all of us really into sports, getting outside. I remember watching films, you know, we'd watch like Cool Runnings, and then we'd go outside with like the go-kart and a skateboard and like line them all up, and then we'd all be coming down the drive, you know?
I mean, I've done it. We've done the roller skates behind the bicycle, the skipping rope.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, pushing the go-kart down the road. Yeah, all these things.
Okay, nice. So, like you say, you've always been cycling, sort of into sports. What was the real turning point? Because I mean, Giles and I, we like to say we played a bit of sport.
Dive in here.
We were really into it, but obviously, what was the turning point to thinking, you know, I want to be the best in the world at this. I really want to actually do this. What sort of age were you?
Can you whack that in the oven?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
There we are.
Stick that in for about 15 minutes. About halfway through, we're going to put a bit of this veg in as well. We've got the Tommies and we've got the sun-dried tomatoes as well to go in there.
I'm just going to mention, sun-dried tomatoes are a revelation.
Oh,
now,
good for flavour.
I have to say, I add them to so many things now. Thanks to you guys. I'd be like, oh, I've never thought of putting it in that.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they?
Yeah, a good mindful chef with like a little kind of tip from the top there.
Nice.
Always have them. Anyway, yeah. I got talent spotted when I was 16. Just because I'd been racing as a hobby, a national coach rang me up and was like, do you want to come to Manchester and try out? And I was like, Dad, there's a man on the phone. He says he wants me to go to Manchester.
I'm going to check that guy first. Yeah.
And so I went up there and had my physiological tests, and they see if you've got the power and the sort of physiology to make it happen. And they were like, yeah, we want you. And I was like, I'm going to do my GCSEs and my A-levels, and I'm going to go to university first, and then I will come. So
was that through Sports Aid? Was it that
so I got
did
some,
it, or was that
I had some
after?
Sports Aid support. World-class funding didn't start until a couple of years after that. So I was really looking forward into my future as a part-time athlete, balancing a job and training in order to reach the top of the sport. So it was quite a difficult decision to make, to commit to it, because you knew you had to try and balance a job. And I thought going to university will allow me to get a better job so that I can have, perhaps an easier way to sort of manage my training and my career. But fortunately, by the time I left university, lottery funding had come into place. So it all turned out rather well.
So I suppose probably for like a lot of us or a lot of people watch it, they probably thought actually it was a lot earlier, maybe. But actually, you went to university first, got a degree, and then actually was that when it sort of really took off?
Yeah, because I mean, when you're at university, you've got your own time. For the first time, you can manage it. And I really just prioritised my training. And it gives you time to train. Had great gym facilities. I was lucky enough to get an elite athlete grant to help support my travel. Yeah. And they just made it easier for me. So I was training pretty hard that whole time. I didn't have much of a social life, but it was the perfect preparation to sort of move into that next stage of my life.
Oh, awesome.
Tofu.
Tofu, just a quick one.
See it.
Shout out to our friends at, if I can get the label, Dragonfly. So I've just drained the tofu and I'm now basically going to pat it dry whilst these guys carry on listening and interrogating Victoria. So basically, make sure you pat it dry, otherwise it will go completely crumbly and not what you want in the pan. Yeah. So give it a good pat, and after that I'm then going to shape it into something like on there, following our recipe card, which thousands of our customers are doing tonight as well. We've had some great snaps of this dish in our Facebook community, our private one with all customers in there. So remember, by the way, for tonight, if you have any questions, Victoria, as we're going along, just comment below. You'll be entered into a competition to win a month worth of Mindful Chef. So, I mean, it's a win-win, right? You get to ask one of the greatest Olympians in the UK, anything you want at all. I mean, we might not answer anything, but and also you get to be entered into competition, so perfect.
And by the way, it's worth spending time and a bit of attention on your tofu.
There we go, top tip. Come on, Victoria.
Well, I like to give it a little dusting of rice flour or potato flour or corn flour, just because it gets a little bit crispy on the edges in the pan. And I think a lot of people think tofu, they're like, ooh, I'm not sure about that. Me. But I think if you give it a little bit of love, a little bit of time and care, it can be very delicious, actually. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, yes.
100%. Right, another question. So we had around the sort of transition period, right? So you've gone on, you've won 3 Olympic medals, countless World Cup medals, all which I actually got to try on at Victoria's house. I was like,
you did.
Where are the medals, Victoria? Bring them out straight away. Yeah. I will put them on, please, and pretend. Let me stand on the stairs and pretend I'm mentally. And
I mean, when you asked us to put the national anthem on, I thought it was a bit far.
It went a bit far, didn't it?
A little bit too far.
But basically, the transition period, you know, we have a lot of friends who are in sports. You know, my brother is actually just retired from professional rugby this year, and you know, it must be a really hard time for you guys to just think about, you know, what is next. What for you? What was that experience like? Like, how long did it take you to think about? Because there is a life after sport, and you're, you know, evidence of that, everything you've gone on to do. But there must have been a time, you know, after the Olympics, you were like, oh, what am I going to do?
It's terrifying. It is really terrifying when all you've known is a very strict regime, very organised process, very disciplined process, and you think, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to have all the freedom in the world. I can eat what I want, go where I want, go crazy. I'm going to start drinking. I'm going to go out partying. I'm going to do all these things that I've been putting at the back of my mind because I've been focusing on my career and always saying, in the future I can do those things, so I don't need to do them now. And then you get there and you're like, you have a glass of champagne and think, oh, I'm quite tired actually. Is it bedtime yet? I think I'm going to go out for a run in the morning, and it's very hard to break the mentality. Yeah. It's almost like being institutionalised and then being like, how do I survive?
This is a new world. What's going on?
It's actually, in some ways, having that freedom was almost paralysing in many ways. So I just basically decided to do and try as many different things as I could. I looked at it like work experience for VP. Like, I'm going to try and ask all these people if I can come and have a day in the workplace, and I'm going to take up new sports. I'm going to say yes to as many things as possible, hoping that I'd find the next thing to step onto.
And you did?
Yes!
That's one of the things I love about Victoria. So one of your goals, I think you told us like a couple of years ago, was every year you try and do a new sport, right?
At least one.
At least one, yeah.
Try and do 2 new sports.
Try and do 2. What's the 2 this year?
So, I mean, this coming year, so 2020, I really want to do some free diving. Now, this is something that terrifies me, and I would love to learn how to do that.
Do you know what the world record is?
No.
It's unbelievable. On one breath, I think it's 22 or 22 minutes. That's ridiculous.
I mean, I'm not going to go for the... Look.
That's ridiculous. Think about how long
I just want to do it like in a hobby sport kind of way.
Someone at home is going to Google that and be like...
Somebody at home is going to be in a bath later, like, holding on.
So, I'm not a water baby. Although I have taken up surfing, I'm not necessarily someone who's always been really comfortable with the water, and for me that's a boundary that I'd like to be able to overcome.
Well, we'll get into surfing, but then on the transitional sort of side as well, what I think a lot of our sort of community and customers will be interested in is probably your shift in eating, right? Because you were a professional athlete at the top of her sport.
In the olden days, when you were told if you went vegetarian, you were probably going to fail, let alone become vegan, and that was definitely get out, just leave. So I came from a background where I was encouraged, very strongly encouraged to eat a lot of animal protein, drank a lot of whey protein shakes as well, so a lot of dairy in my diet. But I was also someone who quite enjoyed dairy. So I would think nothing of stopping at the service station. What I'd buy is a pint of milk and down it in one, probably have a bar of chocolate. And then, you know, that would be my go-to. But in terms of eating animal protein, my mum has always been on my back going, finish the meat on your plate, you can leave the rest. And I'm like, ugh. Like, it's never really been something that I've particularly enjoyed. So the day I retired, I went vegetarian. I was like, that's it.
Sure.
Yeah. I originally thought maybe pescatarian is for me because I do love fish. But then I felt too black and white about it in my nature. So I went vegetarian. And then I started to get fat.
Right.
Because everyone feeds you loads of cheese and pastry and butter on everything. Because how can food without meat be delicious without these things? And I thought, right, you know what? I have concerns about my environmental impact and sustainability, and I know that if I cut out dairy and meat products, both of them, I'm doing as much as I can to try and be a little bit more conscious of my footprint. And so I cut it out, and you know what? It was easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
and now,
with the help of a certain Michael Chef.
Yep. That's true. But you know, there's so many products out there that replace your milk and your cheese and all those other things that you don't need to eat them.
Well, I think that's it, right? And nowadays there's so much more education, there's so many more resources around it. It's not back to the point of healthy eating anyway, it's just chicken and broccoli, which is what was very much the thought back in the day in sports. It's not that either, but it's also plant-based eating can actually be really delicious. There's lots of different products out there you can sort of switch in, switch out, all that sort of thing. So
I mean, we have, on that front, we have, obviously, when did we introduce plant-based dishes? Maybe 2016, so 3 years ago, and the amount of flexitarians and people who eat meat and fish who are now moving across, we have like every week around 45% of our entire customer base across the UK has one plant-based dish, at least one plant, which is really cool to see, because people are just being kind of eased into it.
I think it's not about preaching about what's right and wrong. I think it's about making choices based on how you feel and how you feel morally about what you do, how you feel in terms of your environmental impact and your health and well-being. And so many plant-based things are very good for your health.
Absolutely, just in the inclusion of more vegetables on your plate, you know, for a lot of people, that just by that very nature of the recipes are just
And you guys are doing a great job at educating people how to make delicious vegan food, because I must admit, one of the reasons I started to search for a recipe box was I was in the States, my uncle was using a recipe box company, and I was cooking all these incredible dishes I'd never really even imagined before. And I came back and was like, I'd really like that in the UK because my repertoire is fairly limited. Having always cooked with meat, to then sort of be like, what
it's
do I make?
It's a bit daunting, right?
What do I make? And then you end up having the same things, and I was like, this is really boring repertoire. So I was looking through what's available, and you guys were the only one that offered a vegan option, and also the fact that it was like no processed white carbohydrates, because that's important to me too. Because I'm not an athlete anymore and I can't eat all the carbs. I wish I could eat all the carbs, but I just
can't burn them off in no time. Yeah.
I'm not training for 6 hours, annoyingly.
It's a bit different now,
so
isn't it?
For me, it was like an education, and I think I'm a much better cook now, thanks to you.
I did wonder how. I don't think I've ever asked you over the years how you found us. But so you saw the idea in America and you're like, right.
Well, I used a product and I was like, I'd never really thought about recipe boxes. And then when I researched them and I looked at the vegetarian options available from some of your competitors, and I thought, I don't want to eat that. That's cheese and pasta. That's not what I want to eat.
Yeah, but it's quite a fun story actually about how Victoria got in touch. I think we had no idea she was a customer. She was under a different name at the time, and just one day, I think you were on the way to a race. You were driving in your car.
I remember.
And you just rang up, and this is why I call you Vicky. We're trying to figure out why I called her Vicky. And she was on the phone. She rang up and she's like, "Can I speak to Miles and Giles, please?" And then on the phone she goes, "Hello guys, it's Vicky P here. I'm on my way to a race."
Vicky,
I think you're trying to be a bit, you know, a little
okay.
wide boy at the time. Yeah, you're on the way to a race though, and you rang up and got in touch. But yeah, so Victoria's been a customer for a few years now, and it's great, and she comes in and does some of this stuff, so it's fantastic.
But not only that, not just a customer. I believe in you guys.
Believer. She's a believer. She's drinking the Kool-Aid. And in terms of eating this way on your health, you feel better than before?
Yeah, I feel like I can eat it. For me, the biggest thing about it is when the volume. It feels like I'm getting a satisfying volume of food, rather than like feeling disappointed in what I'm eating. I feel very satisfied with the taste and the flavours and the amount I can eat.
Let me just dive in. I've just flipped the tofu to keep you guys on track here.
Tell you what, that's looking nice and crispy. That.
Perfect. So when about halfway through, when it's golden, so I was just having a look as the guys are talking. Make sure it's golden enough. Flip it halfway through, and then about 2 minutes before the end, we're going to add this Pestorissa, which is amazing, from one of our fantastic suppliers and partners, and actually friends, Belazu. Belazu, if you haven't checked them out, Belazu, however you want to say it, they are awesome. We use them in loads of our recipes. They have a huge range. Milo actually went out, was lucky enough recently.
I did. I got to go to Spain. I got to go and see how olive oil's
November
made.
time, December
I got to go
time.
and see how vinegars are made. It's amazing. Like if you're looking for high quality, you know, paste and vinegars, this is the stuff you want to use. So Giles got tofu going.
Quinoa simmering, tofu's on.
See what else we need? I think these need to go in the oven actually.
Can you stick them in the oven gloves just over there? And just dump them into exactly the same. So this is kind of, as Vicky was saying, in terms of eating the rainbow, filling yourself up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your veg a day, maybe 6 of your veg a day in one meal with Mindful Chef. So we'll stick them all in together.
Let's mix it.
And guys, while they're doing that, don't forget, make sure you comment, ask your questions. We will get to them at the end, don't worry. Olivia's going to bring in all your questions. We'll make sure we do them. Thank you everyone who's commenting so far. It's great, I think, touching on Victoria's points about how the meals can help educate people on portion sizes or just what is interesting, what's delicious to cook. So please keep the questions coming in. Right, I wanted to move on to something which I think is really interesting. And I think is amazing accomplishment, even putting yourself out there to just go and do it, and that is Everest. So, like, you know,
All crazy.
I've read Fogel's book, loved it. Like, but obviously, I want to chat to you more about your point of view, and just because obviously you got right to the top and then couldn't quite finish the summit. You were pretty close.
I got to the sort of just for the loatsy face.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then illness just struck
Yeah,
in
just
and
unfortunately, we'd really pushed for an early summit because the weather conditions were amazing, and you only get 2 or 3 days potentially each season. And
it was really,
yeah.
it was also really quite up and down the weather as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it was like you got your 3 days and you
wanted to get up there early, get it done, take the opportunity, and unfortunately that meant picking up the pace a bit in acclimatisation, and I just couldn't acclimatise in time, and it's the most frustrating thing because when I was walking, I felt really good, and then when I stopped in the tent at night, my sort of blood oxygen levels would just drop really, really unsafe, like low levels.
And there's just nothing you can do about it
And
as
you
well. It's
can't
just your
push
body
it.
just
It's
saying,
not like-
I just can't quite do it quickly enough.
That's it. Acclimatisation just takes time, and you can't rush time. Well, we'd scheduled about, usually it's between 6 and 8 weeks you put in to climb Everest from start to finish with the time it takes, 10 days to get to base camp, and you spend time climbing up, going down, doing rotations, I think the summit day was going to be the 19th of May. I was home by the 3rd of May, so it was, I needed those extra 2 weeks. I didn't have them. So it hasn't put me off mountaineering. I definitely want to get over an 8,000 metre peak, and I've had some good offers and opportunities come up, but it's just about getting your body in the right condition to do it.
Yeah, and having the time. It's a lot of time, right, to actually, the practice, like just getting your body over here even, just walking and everything else and then leading up, and then actually the couple of weeks or however long you're spending there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine because it's not just like trying to gain fitness, it's trying to gain fitness and you're waiting for your body to adapt to the altitude. Yeah. So there's the factors that are not really within your control, and if you push them harder, it doesn't mean you're going to get there faster.
I think it's mental. I think, just looking at the pictures and then walking over the ladders, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure it's for
the
me.
ladder. Okay, everyone always says about the ladder and how how do you do that? And it's like, well, you've got 2 ropes. And
Does that balance you out?
So you
the
pick up the
and
ropes, and what you do is you take the slack and you pull it tight from behind you, so you've got something to lean against.
Okay. So that kind of helps you balance.
And you're attached to them, so if you fall, you'll fall like 3 or 4 meters below the ladder, but no further.
No, just
Unless
down,
something goes
just
really
into a
wrong.
crevice.
Yeah,
Like, you'll
but then
never
you
see
think to
again.
yourself, if you think about a ladder and how evenly spaced the rungs are, you could do that on the ground here. If we put a load of black lines on, you could do it. So why can't you do it
Victoria
up there?
can walk in, you know, a foot like sort of thing, a plank here. Put me a couple 100 foot above a dark
Bit of
hole.
wind,
It's a
bit of
bit,
icy
yeah,
wind.
it's a bit weirder. But look,
Okay.
you've spoken really openly and honest about it. And that you didn't get to summit. You came back, weren't feeling your best. But
No.
it seems like it was a really big turning point in your life because you know you've gone on to do so much more after that now. Like what was that feeling when you
Yeah.
came back? What happened next?
So I had a lot of things going on in my personal life, which I thought I had under control. I didn't. I think the disappointment, the effect of being hypoxic can cause post-traumatic stress disorder and
hypoxic
anxiety. It's when a lack of oxygen, so your brain
brain.
swells. It's kind of bad.
Yeah.
And I think I had just too many layers all at once hit me, and I just couldn't cope anymore. I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety, and I was given a lot of medication, and I felt terrible. And it was I thought I'd been low before, but it didn't compare. And it gave me a whole new perspective on people suffering with mental health. And there were days when I couldn't even get out of bed. I couldn't even speak to my mum. It was a real challenge. But for me, I'm kind of, you've got to experience night to appreciate day.
Yeah.
That's a nice quote, isn't it?
That is a lovely quote. And having
Yeah.
met you actually before you went and did it, and like after when you've come back, like I can completely agree with what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
your whole, not that you were bad before,
Yeah.
but your whole personality and outlook on life now is so much more different to before. And that's sort of what I'm saying about that turning point.
I
as
think
well.
also just learning to appreciate all the good things in life and to reward yourself for your efforts and not always, I was so self-critical and always like on the negatives, and not just stepping back and thinking sometimes how lucky I am. And I think that made me realise, like, being in such a dark place and being in a physically dangerous kind of situation, that it kind of made me feel like how lucky and blessed I am, and for all the things I have, and my, beautiful horses and the opportunities I have, and
family and friends
and everything. Everything that makes the world great that we take for granted.
I want to chat more.
Yeah.
Gylo. I
Gylo.
think we need that paste.
That
in the
paste.
tofu.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the last couple of minutes, and then it'll go in, and we're getting there here.
So for a lot of people, I think they would have maybe they would have just really gone into their shell. But you went surfing.
Yeah.
Instead, right?
Costa Rica.
Yeah, so after being prescribed all kinds of potions and tablets, and I was literally rattling. And it works for a lot of people. I just couldn't feel anything. And that numbness that I had was just unbearable, because I think I'm so used to pushing myself physically and mentally to feel nothing. It was like, ugh. And then I just one day I was like, I need to go surfing. I need to find joy. And surfing at the time was a fairly new sport for me. I'd only been doing it a couple of years. I really loved it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to just go surfing. I'm going to find some joy. I'm going to enforce joy into my life rather than lying here, feeling rubbish. And against all my family's kind of advice, they were like, you're going to go by yourself to Costa Rica. I was like, yeah. I know where I'm going.
Why
I'm
not
like,
Cornwall, right?
Yeah.
Why is Costa Rica?
Well, it's a
wanted
bit
to get
sunny. It's a bit
out. I
warmer
wanted
in
to
Costa
live
Rica.
Live in the
Beneficial.
jungle. Yeah, in the jungle, simplify my life. The sink is a concrete sink outside in the jungle. It's a hose pipe. It's really
It's epic.
basic.
It's beautiful as well. The people
Yeah.
are lovely. Surf's amazing.
The surf's amazing.
Weather's great.
And I just had the surf instructor drag my ass out every morning, regardless of how I was feeling. And a few days in, I started to feel like, you're paddling for your life and a massive set's coming in. Like, I just got to get over this wave. I'm going to be in the drop zone, and I'm going to be in a washing
I'm going to
machine
be in pain.
pain.
I'm going to be in pain, yeah.
And suddenly when you're paddling for survival in that way, because you do not want to get ditched repetitively.
Literally, yeah, when you're about to get chucked into the...
You see some
washing
wave
machine.
coming up and you're like, oh dear, because it's the end of the season and it was rainy season, so it can be a little bit challenging. you're not thinking about how you feel. You're outside your own thoughts. You're in a mode where you're like, I need to get over this wave, not how do I feel today and everything's a bit rubbish in my life and I can't get out of it. And yeah, you know, all those negative thoughts that just go round and round. And day after day, I started to feel better and better and better. And surf therapy is something that's, you know, very close to my heart. And then I was approached by a charity in the UK.
Yeah, the Wave Project, right?
Yeah. So they use surf therapy. It's prescribed now by the NHS, which blows my mind.
I think that's amazing.
Surf therapy. Yeah. So these kids go on these 6-week programs. A lot of them go on to become volunteers. People from challenging backgrounds with difficulties in terms of mental health or social difficulties or lots of different aspects, even some physical disabilities. So they offer this opportunity for kids to just get out and try surfing with an instructor and feel the stoke. Yeah. Stoke is an actual thing, guys. Stoke.
And for a lot of them, they probably might not have ever been to the sea, or be in the water. And there's something very human, very innate within us. Like I surf a lot, so I get it. Like actually just being out there, being in the sea,
and it
spending
asks
time.
you to be resilient. Like being in the ocean, the waves hit you, they knock you back. There is power there that you will never control, that you can never match, and you have to almost succumb to it. You have to let go. And I think when you get knocked down, you get back up and you try again, and you fall off that wave and you get back up again, and it builds a resilience and a confidence in the kids, and that's a big part of the kind of what the system offers, and I get it.
It's
I
awesome,
felt it.
Really relaxed,
well,
in a weird way.
Yeah, it's
you're about to be chucked under a...
Because you're about to
your
be
survival.
But yeah.
And I just get that.
Victoria, another really good quote. What was it? Surfing is a form of mindfulness for somebody with no concentration.
Yes!
Which is basically both of us, I think. But it is, you get out there, you're in the most of the ocean. You have to sort of give yourself up because the power, you don't control the power at all. And you just get to, sort of be on your own for a moment and just sort of focus.
I mean, there's a beautiful thing when you get out on the shoulder of a day that's a bit heavy and you have a moment to breathe and just take in the situation. And it's kind of just like, whew. Have a little pause before you go and attack it. And that's a beautiful place to be. Yeah.
Right, guys.
Have you got any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, while Giles is sort of sorting this out, my lovely assistant,
I'm biding you time for the questions.
Olivia, community manager's coming in with the questions from the crowd. Thank you. Right, so thanks very much, guys. Don't forget, we've probably still got time for a few more as well if you get them in on the live. So, okay, first one. This comes from TJ Anchek, I think. Have you tried slacklines or unicycle?
No.
Slacklines? How cool are they?
Maybe that's 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah? Unicycle. I want to see you outside here.
I've never tried a unicycle. Tricycle, tandem, yes. Unicycle, no.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We have, another Mindful Chef customer, superfan, friend of ours, and yours, Laura Wright. The infamous, amazing singer.
Hi, Laura.
Just had a little baby. Congratulations. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, congrats, guys.
She actually hasn't even put a question. She's just said, "You're my hero, Victoria."
Can often be found on the middle of any rugby, NFL, football pitch, singing the national anthem.
That's lovely.
So much talent. She's a beauty.
She is a legend. Thanks, Laura. We got another one. What is your favourite Mindful Chef recipe? And that comes from Olga. Thanks, Olga.
Olga, I have to say, one of my firm favourite go-tos is the ragu with butter bean mash.
Yeah, I love that one.
It's got the sun-dried tomatoes.
Oh, it's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say sun-dried
tomatoes
tomatoes in there.
Butter bean mash is a revelation because I love mash, and I never ever thought of mashing a butter bean. And it's so delicious with a bit of garlic in it.
What about parsnip as well? You found a parsnip mash?
I love parsnip
and
mash.
Parsnip fries?
Yes.
Fries I love. Get them thin enough, get them in the oven.
Oh,
anything
yeah, they are.
Chip format is good.
Chip format, exactly. Gilo, what are you doing? Come on.
Right, so I've just squeezed some lemon into the bowl here. I've basically put everything in a nice big mixing bowl. We've got the quinoa, that's done. That was 15 minutes. We've got the tofu and the pestorissa just almost ready. I know.
Pesto, and you said harissa.
Correct.
Spicy.
Correct. And now we're basically almost ready.
Hang on a minute, guys. There's only 2 plates and there's 3 of us.
Right. Well,
cheers, Gilo. Thanks very much. Good work.
No, you guys.
Right, but just while Giles is plating up, making that look really beautiful as well.
Making it look beautiful.
Yeah.
What did you say? What was the next challenge?
So, I'm trying to do a little bit more adventurous things, and there are a few challenges, none of which have been confirmed as of yet, so I can't say, but maybe some TV-based,
Nice.
documentary style.
We'll
Epic.
wait for our return.
Global.
We'll wait for our return call. Thank you.
And yeah, so there's a few things. I mean, definitely, yeah. There's been a few offers already this year, but nothing confirmed.
Awesome.
But definitely going to be something a bit dangerous, a bit daring,
I
a bit
wouldn't-
out there.
Even more daring than SES Who Those Wins. And
Yeah, maybe.
I suppose that was you enjoyed that, didn't you?
I loved it. I really loved it.
They're nice guys as well, aren't they?
They are.
I've met Foxy.
Oh, Foxy.
Lovely bloke.
Everybody knows Foxy, and everyone says he's a lovely bloke because he genuinely is.
Well, he went.
You're about to say,
No, he genuinely
He
is.
went full SS on me. We were getting taxi together home for something, and then suddenly just
God,
jumped
I
out
know
of
this
the
story
car,
before.
out of the traffic lights, and he was off. It's like, see you later, gone. One more question, just
Yep.
before we finish. We can't have one of the best Olympians ever to grace our shores come on here without offering all of the people at home, all the guys watching, one bit of advice. It can be anything. It can be
Ooh.
physical. It can be mental. It
No,
can be
there's
just
only
wellness-wise.
ever one piece of advice. Don't let other people limit what you're capable of. My whole life, people will be saying, you're too this, you're too that, you can't. Well, you can if you want to. So just be courageous and do it.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, yeah. We'll
It's a bit full on.
No, I love it. That's great. We'll be putting that one up. There you go, Gilo. Do you want to present the
Oh.
guys, please?
So we have Pestorissa tofu, which looks divine, and I'll give you, just to treat you, as you're my guest this evening, a little slice of lemon on the
yes.
side, with 6 of your 5 a day, right there from Mindful Chef. Too easy. Should we
Beautiful, isn't it?
Oh my
What's that, about
goodness.
25 minutes? Well, we've been
I
rambling.
mean, we've been rambling, but half of that was ready about 10 minutes ago, so let me grab some forks.
Guys, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Victoria, for coming along. It's been a pleasure
Oh, thanks
as
for having me.
always. Thank you very much. Guys, don't forget, we'll be doing more of these. Got another one coming next month with another special guest. So keep an eye out for those. Tune in next time, and we'll see you all soon.
See you soon, guys. Thanks for
Thank you.
joining. Right, let's dive in.
Bon appetit.
Let's go.
Ooh.